What time is it? 5:55. Okay. When it's 6 o'clock, just let me know. Just indicate 6 o'clock. That means 7, sorry, 7. 7. Alhamdulillah. نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So in continuing discussing the book Al-Arba'in An-Nawawi, as it is known as, where this is a collection of hadith where the author rahimahullah have collected regarding a hadith that he referred to as Jawami al-Kalim. And we have started this collection where we have covered the first and the second hadith, and today inshallah ta'ala we'll be discussing the third hadith that is mentioned in this particular collection. So as for the hadith, so the system that we had mentioned is that we'll read through the hadith and translate the hadith, and then we mention the general meaning of it, and then we mention regarding takhrij of the hadith, and also the importance of the ahmiyat al-hadith, and also then we discuss concerning the mawdu of the hadith, and then we go into the explanation of the hadith. So that's concerning the system that we'll be following beyond Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as for the hadith that is mentioned, he mentioned an Abi Abdurrahman Abdullah ibn Omar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhuma قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول بني إسلام على 5 شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا رسول الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة وحج البيت وصوم رمضان رواه بخاري ومسلم. So that's the hadith he mentioned here regarding concerning this, the third hadith of this collection, where the hadith translation he mentioned concerning the Sahabi who is Abi Abdurrahman Abdullah ibn Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhuma قال, that he heard the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, Bunya Islam ala khams, that Islam is built or established on 5. Then he mentioned Shahada of La ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, and Iqam as-Salah, and payment of the zakat, and to perform Hajj, and Sawm al-Ramadan. And then he mentioned Rawahu, the hadith is narrated by Imam al-Bukhari and also Muslim. So this hadith is said to be muttafaqun alayh, as collected by Imam al-Bukhari and Muslim. Then as for the next matter regarding takhrij of the hadith. So first that they mentioned here that you have al-Busiri, or of those who somewhat have added some footnotes regarding this particular collection. So of those things that al-Busiri rahimahullah you have mentioned that as for including that hadith is narrated by Bukhari and Muslim, also he said concerning والترمذي والنسائي والحاكم والبيهقي. So he mentioned those 4 other books that also have collected this particular hadith. So he mentioned regarding, as we mentioned, al-Kutub al-Sitta, that we have al-Bukhari and Muslim, and also added to Kutub al-Sitta would be al-Tirmidhi in his Jami', and also al-Nasahi rahimahullah jami'an. And they mentioned concerning Hakim in his book al-Mustadrak. I tried to look in Mustadrak regarding the hadith, but quick brief looking, but I wasn't able to find the hadith. And most that didn't mention, but needs just to be verified, until to be verified or check further regarding. Then as for Bayhaqi, others have mentioned regarding the hadith in the Bayhaqi, and also the hadith in the Ibn Hibban and others, Ahmed and others. But the main point regarding concerning as for takhrij within Kutub Sitta, that they mention the hadith with those 4, Bukhari, Muslim, At-Tirmidhi and Nasahi, and also concerning Al-Mizzi in his book Tuhfat al-Ashraf also mentioned this particular, or mentioned those 4. That's concerning takhrij of hadith. So regarding concerning the hadith, as we mentioned, that the hadith here is mentioned in Sahih Muslim, and regarding concerning that Imam Muslim rahimahullah, that is narration of hadith, we'll just mention what he mentioned, hadith with different wording. So regarding concerning Imam Muslim rahimahullah, when he mentioned this particular hadith, Bunya Islam ala khams, that he mentioned different wording of the hadith. So regarding concerning the hadith that he mentioned, regarding the different wording that he mentioned, of the wording that he mentioned, Bunya Islam ala khams, or mentioned khamsa. So in the narration that we just read, he mentioned khams. But in Muslim that he mentioned, we have different narrations, or different turuq of the hadith. So Imam Muslim rahimahullah, he mentioned a hadith with different turuq. He mentioned Bunya Islam ala khamsatin. That he mentioned khamsatin. The one before mentioned khamsa. Then he mentioned ala an yuwahid Allah, iqam as-salah, ita az-zakah, siyam Ramadan, wal hajj. Then he mentioned فقال رجل. So in the narration the Muslim mentioned it said قال رجل الحج والصيام Ramadan. So the person want to, regarding concerning that, the order is hajj to be mentioned before as-siyam. فقال لا صيام رمضان والحج هكذا سمعته من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So that's concerning one of the narrations in Sahih Muslim. So he mentioned بني Islam على خمسة. Then he mentioned, as for those khamsa, he mentioned ala an yuwahid Allah. So the narration that we mentioned Shahada and La ilaha illallah. But this one I mentioned in summary, and yuwahid Allah. Nam, without also a risala being mentioned regarding Muhammad Rasulullah. Then he mentioned concerning that Imam Muslim, that he mentioned another narration and Ibn Omar, that he mentioned regarding Bunya Islam ala khamsin ala an ya'budullah wa yukfir bima duna wa iqam as-salah wa ita az-zakat wa hajj al-bayt wa sawm Ramadan. So that's the second wording of Imam Muslim. So you have different wording of the hadith in Sahih Muslim. So mention, and the two that we have mentioned, that they are not from the one that we have read in the collection of Imam An-Nawawi. Then so Imam Muslim mentioned the second narration that he mentioned, Bunya Islam ala khams, that Islam is built on 5. Then he mentioned, the first one mentioned khamsatin, this one mentioned khamsan or khamsin. Taib, then he mentioned, as for those khamsa, ala an ya'budullah wa yukfir bima duna, and that's concerning the Shahada. Nam, so he didn't mention Shahada and La ilaha illallah. So he mentioned this wording, ala an ya'budullah wa yukfir bima duna. Nam, so that's concerning Shahada. Then he mentioned iqam as-salah, itaz zakat, hajj al-bayt, wa sawm Ramadan. Then he mentioned another wording we mentioned again on Ibn Umar, قال Rasulullah عليه الصلاة والسلام بني Islam ala khamsin, Shahada and La ilaha illallah, wa anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Nam, so that's additional in this wording, anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Nam, so the other one didn't mention concerning abduhu wa rasuluh, that we mentioned original the narration in An-Nawawi, wa iqam as-salah wa ita az-zakat wa hajj al-bayt wa sawm Ramadan. So additional from that we mentioned that he mentioned abduhu wa rasuluh. That's an additional then the other narration he mentioned here regarding that, the fourth narration in Sahih Muslim. The fourth narration in Sahih Muslim that I mentioned, أن رجل قال عبد الله بن عمر, and I mentioned إني سمعت رسول الله السلام يقول إن إسلام بني على خمسة. إن إسلام بني على خمسة. شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة صيام رمضان وحج البيت. Nam, so the one that we read, Nam, which of those are the last that we said, that most of those are somewhat different from what the wording mentioned here in he mentioned Sahih Muslim, but somewhat different in wordings. Nam, another one we have read kind of somewhat that so that's concerning a slight difference concerning so even the last hadith concerning mentioned inna Islama bunya ala khamsatin. Nam, which is the closest one to what is mentioned here, is the closest in wording. The last is the closest to what is mentioned by An-Nawawi. And sometimes you'll find a difference regarding concerning that's concerning those riwayat in Sahih Muslim. Nam, so maybe you can say that so Imam Muslim rahimullah, you had a question?
Do you have a number for those hadith?
In Sahih Muslim they are number 8. They're number 8 in Sahih Muslim. So the wording that they mentioned 8 weeks that Imam Muslim, that the thing that Imam Muslim rahimullah distinguish his book concerning to Sahih Bukhari, that he'll mention hadith and he mentioned different riwayat of the hadith, different the wording of the hadith. So he mentioned one hadith, for example this one, and he mentioned the various wordings that this hadith has. So you have about 4 different wording, and he mentioned all different wording. Imam Bukhari, so the thing that I said, Imam Muslim, that his book is somewhat excel compared to Imam Bukhari. So he give you concerning all the different wordings of that hadith in one place. So one after another, regarding different wording that you might find for this hadith. In one place, one after another. So that's concerning of those things that Imam Muslim rahimahullah excel regarding this. So according to the hadith here, they mentioned that he has different wording over. It have 4 different wordings inside Muslim, and he mentioned all different wordings, one after another. But we see a slight difference in the wordings. For example, the person is asked concerning this, said most of the time said the ulama when they wrote those books, there's no numbering of hadith. Number of hadith came later on. Is more later on. Now, of most contemporary time regarding hadith having numbers. Now, of the thing that we say Muslim, this is the Dar Ta'sil, 1 volume. So they have it in a print of 1 volume. Then they have another print which is about 10 volumes or so. So this is a 1 volume print, which is like a muqtasar with not as much footnotes type of thing. But this is said to be one of the more correct print of Sahih Muslim that we have today. One of the more correct print of Sahih Muslim we have today. But of the thing that they did, that is they compared to other prints of Sahih Muslim, right? Imam Muslim rahimahullah, in his book he has kitab. He doesn't have abwab underneath. Now, for example, he mentioned H. So he'll have concerning kitab al-iman. Then you see these like blank space. Other books like An-Nawawi, Qadi Iyad, and others, they're the ones who put these things in abwab. But Imam Muslim doesn't have abwab. So you see all these blank would be normally what others have put. The abwab would be the chapter headings. Now that's from the work of other people, not from the original author who's Imam Muslim. So that's something to be mindful of. So you see that if you go to like Sahih Muslim, that he will kind of somewhat give you all these, where you see these little blank, he'll mention these abwab. That's the work of them, but not the work of Imam Muslim, right? So that's concerning. But also that with Imam Muslim rahimahullah, that he mentioned the hadith, 4 different wordings of the thing that what we try to compare, especially concerning hadith in the Bukhari and Muslim, that what have been mentioned by the ulama, and one of the book concerning the book that you find that most of the ulama who came concerning mutaakhir, concerning An-Nawawi being one of them. Also, the book that is Umdatul Ahkam, the book Umdatul Ahkam by Abdul Ghani al-Maqdisi rahimahullah, that particular book that he collected hadith from Bukhari and Muslim. The book is well known to most. Kitab Umdatul Ahkam is known as of those books that he studied as regarding concern the author rahimahullah, that he collected hadith that are agreed upon between Bukhari and Muslim, or one of them that relates to things concerning fiqh, but a muqtasar, about 500 hadith or so. Now, Abdul Ghani al-Maqdisi, if you were to compare the actual wording, and for example this of Arba'in, and also other works of Imam Nawawi and others, that most of the time when they quote from Bukhari and Muslim or reference hadith from Bukhari and Muslim, they are not mentioning hadith directly from Bukhari and Muslim. So you see a slight difference in their wording than what is actually inside Bukhari and Muslim. Clear? That's because that most of the time we mention concerning that the first hadith, we mention that the hadith that they mentioned the wording, even though they said Bukhari and Muslim, that exact wording is not found in Bukhari and Muslim, but is found in other books. We mention one concerning you have 2 Humaydi. We mention that Humaydi, the Shaykh of Bukhari, that he have his own musnad, and that wording of the first hadith that we mentioned, is the wording of Humaydi, Shaykh of Bukhari. Then another Humaydi, that's concerned that wording also is similar in his musnad, as we had mentioned, but also you have a nukat by Az-Zarkashi on nukat ala Umdatul Ahkam, where the muhaqqiq of the book, the one who did the work on the book and the editing of the book, of the thing that he mentioned, or what is mentioned in that in the taqdeem, one of the mashaykh who have done some work on the work of Humaydi. So Humaydi, who came later on, what he did, You have of those ulama that they collected, they make a jam bayna Bukhari and Muslim. They call kutub al-jam bayna Bukhari and Muslim, where they kind of somewhat, they have gathered Bukhari and Muslim into one book. Those are called al-jam bayna sahihain. So of those famous one is al-Humaydi. So you have Humaydi, who came later on, he combined between Bukhari and Muslim. So that jam between Bukhari and Muslim, a lot of times when people are quoting from Nawawi at times, and we said Umdatul Ahkam, when they are quoting from their book, they are quoting from that book of Humaydi, al-jam bayna sahihain. They're not quoting from directly Bukhari and Muslim. So sometimes Humaydi in his wordings, we have a slight difference from what is in Bukhari and Muslim. Sometimes additional wording and also wordings that are missing. It doesn't change the meaning generally in general, but you might find assert additional in wording that are from him, not from Bukhari and Muslim. Or sometimes I remove a word. Clear? So something I find that concerning An-Nawawi, Abdul Ghani al-Maqdisi, if you study their book carefully, that you will see that sometimes the word they are mentioning concerning Bukhari and Muslim is not the exact wording found in Bukhari and Muslim. Rather, the word that they are mentioning is what they took from Al-Humaydi fi Jam bayna sahihain. So Humaydi, and that book is in print by Al-Humaydi. So you might find that the wording in those books, they are more the wordings that you find in the books of, for example, in this collection, and other works of An-Nawawi and others. Clear? That's concerning for the Talib al-Ilm to be mindful of that. That their wording sometimes from these ulama, Ibn Hajar, at times, Nawawi, Al-Maqdisi, and others, that they are quoting from Humaydi, not directly from Bukhari and Muslim. So you might find a slight difference in the wordings. A slight difference. So at least, it means generally the same. We might find a few words that said.
So we use a synonymous word basically.
No. And nothing that's it. For example, in this narration mention, Abduhu, for example, they might change wording. Like in this one, they mention. Not to say change, said slight wording, it doesn't change the meaning. I say it doesn't change the meaning. But it's not the precise wording as in Bukhari and Muslim. But the meaning is not per se changed. Now, so overall, as we mentioned, the wording that are here, that he mentioned here, that mentioned Bukhari and Muslim, that the wording inside Muslim are somewhat different, and the wording is somewhat different than what is mentioned inside Muslim. So the next thing regarding concerning our explanation after text, that's concerning basic takhrij. Basic takhrij. Concerning, if you want to know concerning the Talib, that if you want to trace a hadith and to know where it can be found in Kutub al-Sitta, then you go back to a book that is called Tuhfat al-Ashraf by Al-Mizzi, Hafiz al-Mizzi rahimahullah. He has two large works that come in many volumes. So Hafiz al-Mizzi rahimahullah, that one of the Kibar ulama al-Hadith, that the Shaykh of that Al-Mizzi has two major works that is said no Talib al-Ilm of Hadith should not consider that la yastagni, that they shouldn't be free of these two books. Two major work that no Talib al-Ilm of Hadith should not have these books. It's like of those things that a Talib al-Ilm is a part of the thing that you must have. Of those things that you must have. Or have access to them. The least is that have access. So Talib al-Ilm, better to the person to have them, but at least have access to them. And know these books. So you have one, and these books that they relate to Kutub al-Sitta. So one, regarding concerning if you want to trace a hadith in Kutub al-Sitta, you just know a part of the hadith. That he can trace the hadith for you, and also reference it back to different books of Kutub al-Sitta. That the work of Al-Mizzi. And as I said, no, a book, a very important book. And the second book by the same author, Al-Mizzi rahimahullah, that he has a book concerning that. He give a tarajum, he gives biography, and also matter relating to Al-Jarh wa Ta'dil regarding the riwayat of Kutub al-Sitta. So if you want to know concerning the hal, what is said, and information about the riwat of Kutub Sitta, then you go back to this book that of Ikmal, Kamal, that's or Tahdhib al-Kamal by Al-Mizzi. Tahdhib al-Kamal by Mizzi. And then you have Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, also did some work on it. That Nasam Tahdhib al-Tahdhib. So you find that out, but that book, those are those two important books regarding Rawat al-Kutub, regarding Kutub Sitta. Whether by way of the Mutun or by way of the Isnad. By way of the Mutun or by way of the Isnad. So that's concerning that matter. But those books, they come in many volumes. They come in many volumes. But we said it's not a talib al-ilm al-hadith, of those things that of his tools, of those things that he should possess, must possess, or at least have access. I use the word at least have access. Now, one come in 30-something volume, and then they kind of start to condense it into, making it like some large volume into 6 volumes. So they put everything, and the other one come about, and next one again, over 10 volumes or more, about 14, 15 volumes. So it come in, those books I said come in large volumes. But important tool for the talib al-ilm. Important books for the talib al-ilm, most of hadith. Most of hadith. Person that is study hadith and doesn't know these books or have them, or even have access to them, that is miskeen. Miskeen talib al-ilm of hadith. Ala kulli hal, next thing regarding after takhrij or hadith, and in some point we explain concerning what we mean by takhrij. Later on we'll explain concerning what is takhrij in the ulum al-hadith. And this itself is within the topic of ilm al-hadith and a science within topic within ilm al-hadith. The next matter we discuss concerning Imam, the narrator of the hadith was Ibn Omar. So in this time we consider the previous hadith were narrated by Omar. Now who is the father. Now they mention regarding Omar or Ibn Omar. So Ibn Omar, that as he mentioned, that his name is kunya Abu Abdurrahman. Is kunya Abu Abdurrahman. As for his name, was Abdullah Ibn Umar Ibn Khattab Al-Qurashi Al-Adawi Al-Makki Thumma Al-Madani. So it's Abdullah Ibn Umar Ibn Khattab Al-Qurashi Al-Adawi Al-Makki Thumma Al-Madani. That's Ibn Umar Rata'ala Anhuma. And the ulama Karasan then mentioned regarding concern that he accepted Islam as an infant, as a youngster. So Ibn Umar accepted Islam as a youngster while he was in Mecca. So he accepted Islam in Mecca as a youngster, and then also he made hijrah with his father. He made hijrah with his dad, Omar ibn Khattab. So his father is Omar ibn Khattab. So his father is Omar ibn Khattab. Then as for Ibn Umar, that of a young man from a young age he wanted to fight and to participate in the Ghazawat. So regarding concerning Uhud, he was considered to be too young. Year after, then he was allowed. He was allowed a year after. So he was too young, but he wanted as a young man to participate in al-jihad. But because of his young age, then he was not allowed. Then eventually he was given allowance or permissibility. Then as for his mother, his mother, Zainab bint Mad'um. Zainab bint Mad'um. So that's concerning his mother and that of Hafsa al-Mu'mineen, that they share same mother. And Omar being their father. So that's concerning also Ibn Umar Rata'ala anhu is known to be or said to be of one of the Ibadillah amongst the Sahaba. So the Ibadillah are 4 amongst the Sahaba that are given that title, that they refer to as Ibadillah. 4, and they're the younger companions, but they are known to be people of fatwa and ilm. So they are known regarding concerning fatwa and ilm wa zuhd. So they refer to them as Ibadillah. So they are 4, and those 4 is Ibn Umar, all of them because their name is Abdullah. So they refer to as Ibadillah because all of their names start with Abdullah. So you have Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Zubair, Abdullah ibn Abbas, and also Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As, Rata'ala anhum jami'an. So those are said to be the Ibadillah amongst the Sahaba. So young companions, but grew up to be people of ilm and also of al-fatwa. Also, Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu is also known to be of amongst the six who is known to be the most riwayat. I mean, I gave over 1,000 narration that I mentioned many of the hadith. So concerning these six are known to be mukthirin amongst the Sahaba regarding narration. So Ibn Umar is amongst them. So you have the likes of the ones who have narrated many of the hadith. That means concerning over 1,000 narrations. Now, of those ones we have Abu Hurairah, we have Ibn Umar, we have Aisha, we have Ibn Abbas, we have Jabir ibn Abdullah, and also Anas bin Malik. So those ones are known to be the ones who have narrated over 1,000 hadith plus. Nam, they're called mukthirun min as-sahaba. They are the ones who are known to the ones who have narrated many hadith. Nam, so Ibn Umar also amongst those ones. Aywa.
Ibn Umar, the four, Ibn Umar,
Abdullah ibn Zubair, Ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Abbas, and we mention Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As. It is stated regarding the virtue of Ibn Umar رضي عنه سعيد بن المسيب رحمه الله قال كنت شاهدا. Listen, لو كنت سعيد بن المسيب mentioned لو كنت شاهدا لأحد, if I was to be a witness of anyone من أهل العلم, from the people of knowledge, نعم أنه من أهل الجنة, that person from the people of أهل الجنة, لشهدت لابن عمر. I'll be a witness so what he's saying, that if I was to be a witness and to testify of any from among the people of ilm that they're the people of Jannah, I'll be a witness that Ibn Umar is from the people of Jannah. Subhanallah. So it shows regarding that now how is virtue of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma. And they mentioned regarding concerning that as for him that he have many hadith in Sahihain, that over 100 hadith, over 170 so hadith that are narrated in Bukhari and Muslim. So Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, that I must mention of his virtue concerning being of the fuqaha, that they mentioned regarding that he performed, that he was wealthy, Ibn Umar, that he performed Hajj 60 times and Umrah over 1,000 times. Subhanallah. So show concerning Sahaba, jid fil ibadah. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu was known regarding, of those Sahaba was keen regarding ittiba' al-sunnah. So anything the Prophet of Islam did, he would do it. Now, that's at some time they can somewhat caution that those things are from the Sunnah, but he will still do it. So the thing that was not from the Sunnah, that need to be per se, that but Ibn Umar did it because the Prophet of Islam, he did it. Now, so he was very keen regarding ittiba' wa luzum as-sunnah. Rata'ala anhuma. Anhuma yani huwa wahabi. So they mentioned regarding, as mentioned by now, concerning if a Sahabi is mentioned and he has a father who's a Sahabi, then they are mentioned, they say radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma. Nam, as a respect for the one being mentioned and also for his father being Muslim. Regarding concerns Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, that he died, wafatuhu radiallahu anhu, that died in Mecca. They mentioned regarding a khilaf regarding exactly what year he died. That I mentioned that he died regarding 74 qila 73, that he died in the year 64 or 63 al-Hijri. So a slight difference regarding the year that he died concerning al-Hijri, but he was around about 84 or so. His age was around 84 when he died. That's concerning Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma. As for this bit of hadith that we mentioned, Bunya Islam ala khams, that as for what is said regarding the importance of this hadith, and the place of this hadith concerning that hamiyat al-hadith wa manzilatuhu. So regarding concerning what is mentioned regarding this, it is mentioned by Ibn Mahdi wa Ibn Madini radiallahu anhuma qal, that it is said, that he said madar ahadith ala arba, that hadith that they revolve around 4 hadith. So all hadith that they revolve around 4 hadith. What are those 4 hadith? They mention amal bin niyat. The first hadith said innamal amal bin niyat. The second hadith, لا يحل دم امرئ Muslim, that is not allowed to spill the blood of the Muslim except for, and to be that hadith. The third, this hadith, بني إسلام على خمس. And then I mentioned concerning the fourth hadith, البينة على مدعي. That clarity, the proof upon the one who makes the claim. The proof is upon the one who makes the claim. So they mentioned that other hadith that they revolve around those four hadiths. Or the hadith that they revolve around those four. And it shows the importance of these regarding that, that they mentioned that Bunya Islam is amongst those hadiths. So it shows the importance of this hadith. Also, An-Nawawi rahimahullah, he mentioned regarding this hadith, he mentioned, هذا hadith أصل عظيم. This hadith, it is a fundamental principle في معرفة الدين, in the person being able to can distinguish the deen. وعليه الاعتماد. And also this hadith, also ihtimad, that reliance upon this hadith, وَقَدْ جَمَعَ أَرْكَانُ. And also it have gathered the arkan of Islam. So that's concerning the importance of this particular dimension. فَيَجِبْ الْإِهْتِنَاء بِهِ. That is the importance that one should give attention to this hadith. وَحِفْظِ. And also to memorize it. I mentioned يَجِبْ أَيْوَةً وَنَشْرِ بَيْنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Also to spread this hadith amongst the Muslim. Now, so it shows regarding this hadith that the ulama all this hadith to be of great status. So that's concerning what is mentioned regarding this particular hadith. Then the next matter to be discussed is regarding the hadith. Is regarding concerning this particular hadith. So from the hadith of the meaning of hadith in general concern that in the Prophet Islam mentions hadith that bunya Islam ala khams. That bunya Islam ala khams. Regarding concerning that Islam is said to be established upon these 5 pillars. That Islam is established upon these 5 pillars. Regarding concerning the bunya, concerning the main pillar. So concerning that the arkan, the main pillar of Islam, it is established on these 5 matters. These are on these 5 particular matters. Then Islam went on to explain. So I mentioned there's some different wordings. Mentioned bunya Islam ala khams, bunya Islam ala khamsin. So you have different wording as we had mentioned previously from Sahih Muslim regarding this particular hadith, but they agree upon regarding that it is either 5 khamsa, regarding 5 usul of Islam. So Islam is fundamental principle. It is related to these 5 things. Now, so that's concerning these particular matter or 5 arkan. So Islam is established on 5 arkan and 5 main pillars. So that's concerning this particular hadith. Regarding, so of those 5 that they mentioned in general, that then Islam went on to explain concerning what are these 5 things. So he mentioned regarding of these 5 things that he mentioned in this narration, Shahada and La ilaha illallah. So Shahada that they mentioned, ulama rahimullah, or the ulama have mentioned regarding the Shahada, that it revolves regarding that one saying the Shahada. So it doesn't mention concern Shahada of the person attesting or testifying to something or being witness to something. So the Shahada from Shahada, that the person is like testifying, being witness, which is concerned that to have La ilaha illallah. This Shahada, it will require for the person that it has to be uttered. So the person able to speak, that the Shahada is to be uttered. Especially if regard to the person who's accepting Islam. Then the person able to speak, then they have to testify, they have to utter the Shahada. So one utterance for the person who's able. If the person unable, then he indicate. So the so the person, the Shahada requires the person that he has to testify to something that he has witnessed. And the Shahada also requires concerning the person that is done upon ilm. Wal basira. So the person saying, testifying to La ilaha illallah, it should be based upon ilm. And we discussed concerning the shurut and the arkan of La ilaha illallah in the previous lesson. Nam. So the Shahada requires that a person who is saying the Shahada, that the person of ilm of what he is saying and what he is entering into. So the person, so even the person in our environment regarding the person who is entering Islam, he has to have a general idea regarding what he's entering into. And what will be required from him, which will be the third thing of the Shahada. So the first concerning that the person, it is uttered. The second thing is based upon ilm. The person has some understanding of what he's saying and what comes. And the third thing, what comes along with the shahada. So there are certain shurut. And these are some of the shurut that I mentioned, the shahada. That a person, he's expected that he has to pray. He has to fast, perform of hajj. So saying the shahada, that it has certain requirements. It has certain condition that is attached to it. So the ulama, rahimahullah, the ulama have made a distinction regarding the shahada and al-qawl bi-shahada, or qawl bi la ilaha illallah. Meaning, the shahada, it fulfilled those three criteria that we just mentioned. The person, he utters it, if he's able. What we say the second is, he has ilm of what he's saying, or yaqeen, he's convinced of what he's saying. And third, muqtadaha, and also he knows what comes along with it, what's attached to the shahada. Then a person just saying la ilaha illallah and doesn't do anything after then. The person, for example, so of those things, especially in our environment, in just clarifying this matter, that a person sometimes say the shahada, and it goes regarding to that, and the person does say the shahada, but the person after saying the shahada, didn't do anything else, doesn't pray, doesn't fast, then that shahada is of no value. That shahada is of no value. That person is not said to be a Muslim, because they didn't act upon the shahada and what is required from it. So the basic stuff that are required, the salah, as we'll discuss, siyam. So those are the basic things that the person should establish with the shahada. So for example, you might find cases that in our environment that we be mindful of, and very concerned in Dawlatul Kufr, the lands of non-Muslim, that a person sometimes say the shahada. And then the person, especially in those cases where the person dies, but didn't pray. Months have gone, weeks have gone, days have gone. But the person said the shahada, but didn't pray. And they had the ability to what? To pray. Is that person Muslim?
The question you asked me?
أستاذ ذا دقيقة
I'll give you
دقيقة so it's food for thoughts. Sometimes we can question the end. It's food for thoughts in a sense of sometimes it's food for thoughts. And this matter is a matter with a shari'iyah, so need to be studied and to be understood. So for example, we might find these cases where a person might take the shahada, but the person did not after then pray, fast, but years went by or months went by and the person dies. And the person dies. Then they'll come to the masjid and say that person, he uttered the shahada. He uttered the shahada months ago, but never prayed since then. That person, as we'll discuss the next matter concerning this, or this concerns salat, concerning that, is that person to be given the rights of a Muslim based upon that situation? Took the shahada, months have passed, but they never prayed. They never prayed. And the person had the ability. So those things, so in a person, certain cases, the person is not to take it personal. It's a matter with the shari'iyah. If a person asks, the person took the shahada, did they pray? When was the last time that person prayed? And if you cannot give an answer that that person took the shahada months ago but didn't pray at all, then that person, is he Muslim or not? Is that person, you understand what we think? So that's the thing that to think about. And you understand that sometimes emotion, especially concerning time of death, we become a lot of emotion. You want, some people, my person in my family, months ago he was ill, took the shahada, but then never prayed. But I bring him to the masjid to be given janazah. But he didn't pray since that day he took the shahada. if the person, the Imam was to ask, did that person prayed since he took his Shahada, then you have to be honest. And in most cases, I will discuss concerning that. We will discuss in the next case concerning what's the hal of such case. Because people do it. But is that person deserving the rights of Islam? Yes, they said, we said that we're discussing a distinction between the real taking of the Shahada properly and the person just talaffal bil qawl of the Shahada. He just said the words of La ilaha illallah, but nothing else changed for them. Clear? The person will say the Shahada, but after saying it, nothing changed in their life regarding applying Islam. They just went on, khalas. Nothing have changed in the sense of they haven't prayed since then. So is that, so I said, those cases, as we'll discuss further. You have any, aywa. I'm not asking that. We're not asking, we're discussing, we're not going into what we're saying. Do we understand what we're talking about? As I said before, it's not of the thing of them said in a matter regarding Sheikh Fulan said this. That's not the way to ask a question. When you're going to ask a question, don't say this Sheikh said this, because it becomes like you make a monarchy between that Sheikh and the person. Then that's not the way to ask a question. Ask a question, what's the hukum? But to kind of somewhat make it become a monarchisha, a debate between this Sheikh said this and you said that and that. That's not what we're here to discuss. What we're discussing, so I said, and also we're discussing concerning that case regarding a person who says the Shahada, but haven't done anything of Islam after then. Food for thought. Is that person Muslim? Does the rights of Muslim or not? That will be discussed in the next thing to be the next concerning the Salah. Clear? I would say this is something that we face in this environment. With me, ikhwan? So the next matter says the Shahada, it consists of those, the Shahid, the Shahada, that a person say to it, what? That a person talaffaz bi the Shahada, it has to be uttered. Second thing, with ilm wal yaqeen, a person understand what he's saying. And third, that the Shahada requires, it have shurut, it have things that comes along, muqtadaha, have things that comes along with it, which is salah, siyam, those are things that is a part of when you say the Shahada. Those things, it is of the thing which is binding upon you when you say the Shahada. So if you don't fulfill those things, then the Shahada is of no worth. Now, so you mentioned regarding the Shahada of La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. I will mention that some narration concerned that I mentioned, and Yuwahidullah, and different words that we mentioned that inside Muslim, but all concerning conveying the message of the person of the utter to the of Tawheed, or Risala. So both those, they go together. The Shahada or Tawheed of La ilaha illallah, and we discuss concerning the matter concerning of Shahada of La ilaha illallah, that at Tawheed, that regarding concerning that, the ulama rahimahullah wa hafidhahumullah, that they have categorized aqsam Tawheed thalatha. Aqsam Tawheed thalatha. And this is the said istiqra, where they look at all the sources in the Quran, the Sunnah relating to Tawheed, that it kind of somewhat, it points in those three directions. Tawheed that relates to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rububiyyah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Asma wa Sifat, and third, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ibadah. So regarding concerning that of the Shahada of La ilaha illallah, the person tried to ensure that those three things are fulfilled. Regarding that concern, to know that he accept and apply those things accordingly regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's lordship, accepting of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala names and attributes as mentioned in the Quran, the Sunnah. And third, that he worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that acts of ibadah is done for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's concerning of the Shahada regarding of La ilaha illallah. So those three things are required. And the other things we had mentioned regarding of La ilaha illallah in the previous dars. In the previous dars we mentioned regarding those matters. Then I mentioned Abduhu wa Rasuluhu, I was mentioning concerning Muhammad Rasulullah. So you have slight difference in the wording, but concerning is to Ithbat al-Risala, that the one who is the conveyor of the message to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Muhammad alayhi wasallam, Nabiyyina alayhi wasallam. Now, so both those two, they go together. Even some narration doesn't mention a risala, but they go together. They go together. Concerning that, al-muballigh concerns al-rasul al-balag wa alayna at-taslim wal-ridha. So regarding concerning that, al-Allah al-risala, upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send the message, wa al-rasul al-balag, upon his message alayhi salam is to propagate the message, wa alayna at-taslim, and upon us is to accept it. So regarding concerning that al-risala is upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send the message. Regarding concerning al-rasul, that is the muballigh, is the one that to convey the message to the people, and regarding concerning that, the people is for them to accept or reject. Nam, so that's concerning قبل ذلك نسيت شيء, that regarding concerning bunya Islam al-khams. So I want to go back a little. Now what is concerned that the first of the second, which is the Shahada, but before they mentioned, or the first concerning Shahada, before they said bunya Islam al-khams, that Islam is built on what? 5 things. 5 pillars. Bunya Islam. We discussed concerning the meaning of Islam linguistically. So concerning Islam, with the ulama, the word Islam, it carries 3 meanings. At times, Islam in general carry 3 meanings. The first, they mention Islam khas, which we are concerned that Islam ad-din, Islam, meaning of Islam at times can carry the meaning concerning ad-din alladhi ja'a bihi nabina Muhammad al-Islam. Islam sometimes is used or meaning concerning the deen, the religion. If you want to use the religion or deen that the Prophet Islam came with, that's Islam. So that's concerning the holistic. So specific regarding that, Islam is the deen that Muhammad al-Islam came with, and all that is a part of it. So the word Islam at times have a meaning khas in relation to that the Prophet Islam that came with. This Islam for us, the people of our time, is Muhammad al-Islam. So the revelation that he came with from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is referred to as Islam, or with the word religion or deen. Second meaning concerning and that deen is for mankind, Jami' an-nas, to accept this religion and no other religion. And the one who rejects this religion is called a kafir, and the one who accepts is called a Muslim. So the one who accepts this deen that Muhammad Islam came with, then is called a Muslim, and the one who rejects it is called a kafir. Clear? That's concerning the first meaning, which is said mana khas. The second meaning, ma'na al-am, a meaning which is general regarding Islam, which is concerning huwa ad-din al-anbiya jami'an. So it's the religion of all the anbiya. So Islam is the religion of all the anbiya, from the first of them to the last of them. So all the anbiya, that the religion they came with was Islam. Clear? Ad-din in Allah al-Islam. Ad-din in Allah al-Islam. So concerning from the deen, with Allah all been established is Islam. From the first of the anbiya to Dawood, wa Isa, wa Musa, wa Sulaiman, the religion they came with was Islam. In a sense of concerning the usul of the deen that the anbiya came with, it's the same concerning Aqidah, 1. Regarding concerning that, the more concerning akhlaq, very similar. But regarding concerning shara'i, in general that it may varies a little. Regarding the usul concerning salah, they prayed as we pray, or they pray. Slight difference, but they prayed. Siyam, they fast. Hajj, they made hajj. So concern those things regarding the usul of these things is also was present in the religion of those anbiya that came before, but their religion was Islam. So regarding i'tiqad was the same. Regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Regarding concern ash-shara'i, that may have a slight difference in certain aspect, in certain areas. So that's concerning al-am, regarding the meaning of Islam, al-am. The third concern am, which is more general than this, more comprehensive, which is concerning al-istislam li awamir Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala al-kawniyya, where the person, as we mentioned, al-Islam, which you said the meaning before, istislam lillah bit-tawheedi, to accept, which is concerning istislam lillah bit-tawheed, to surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's oneness, ta'atuh, what's it? Wa inqiyad lahu bit-taha, for a person to be submissive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command. And third, bara min ash-shirk wa ahli, and for the person to free himself from shirk and the people of shirk. So that's the general Islam, which is aham. Or concerning Islam, or concerning Islam, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command be awamilullah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's concerning Islam, which is more general. So that's concerning Islam having those two meanings. Or three meanings, sorry. With that, that's concerning Islam. And we'll clarify regarding Islam. So as for Islam, then he mentioned alayhi regarding concerning those matters regarding Islam, then clarify regarding, as mentioned, Shahadatu or Shahadati. Can be pronounced both ways, depending on the i'rab. Shahadatu or Shahadati and La ilallah Muhammad Rasulullah, as in the hadith that we read, mentioned, and we discussed concerning those two matters. So I said concerning Muhammad alayhi salam, regarding concerning for us, what is upon us concerning Iman bihi, for us to believe in him as a Rasulullah wa Abdullah, that is Muhammad alayhi salam is Rasulullah Abdullah. What says that? وَتَصْدِيقُهُ فِيمَا أَخْبَرَ, that we also to accept the information that he has given to us, that information that he alayhi salam coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is truthful, sidq. So and it is truthful, that it is truthful. So what are those things of the past that he's speaking of, or present, or future? And he's always known to be Ameen, to be the one who is trustworthy. So when he speaks, he is truthful. So regarding concerning the Risala of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then also that we tasdeequhu fima akhbara. So whatever he has informed us of, we accept this. And the third concern, ta'atullah, imtithal bi awamir, ta'atu la na'budullah illa bima shara. That also we do not worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except by the thing that he alayhi salam came with. So regarding concerning the ibadah, worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based upon what the Prophet Islam came with. Nothing more than so. No bidah, not going above nor below what he came with, not to add nor to subtract. And we discussed those matters regarding, so that's concerning those matters regarding the Prophet Islam. So those are the things that we have to bear in mind. So say, luzum sunnatihi. Luzum sunnatihi alayhi salam. Then after, then he mentioned wa iqamus salah. So of those matters are said to be the pillars of Islam. Regarding the second will be, so in now this given tafsil bunya Islam ala khams. Then concerning listing those things that are mentioned as the pillars of Islam. So the first we mentioned the Shahada of La ilallah. Nam, and a person for the other four, salat, siyam, zakat, for it to be acceptable, the person must have Shahada. There's no Shahada except with the Shahada is acceptable. So it's not valid a person's salat unless he has testified to La ilallah. So the other ones that come after, so the Shahada, so they're also on different tafawut. So the Shahada is not like Salah. The Salah is not like the Shahada. So the Shahada is the core of everything else. It's the core of everything else. Without it, all the other things have no worth. So they're not equal. So the person said, I pray, but I don't bear witness to Muhammad Rasulullah. He has no Islam. He has no Islam. So that's concerning that he mentioned iqamatus salah. So regarding concerning iqamatus salah, that ulama have a discussion regarding concerning that as-salah. So regarding concerning iqamatus salat, concerning that the person established salat by way of he fulfilled the salat as the Prophet Islam have taught us. Regarding all its arkan, shurut, of those things which are the wajibat of salat, the sunnah of the salat. So all those things, the person that he carried the salat as we were taught by the Prophet Islam. So as we mentioned regarding the salat that is intended here regarding that as-salat al-maktuba. So as-salat al-maktuba. They are compulsory salat that the person is expected to fulfill. Bunya Islam ala khams, as-salat al-maktuba. So those are the 5 compulsory salat in a day and a night. So the adad of salat al-maktuba khamsa. Dhuhr, and it is 4 rakah. Asr, 4 rakah. Maghrib, 3 rakah. Isha, four rakah, and Fajr rakatayn. And each of set time regarding a time that it starts and a time that it ends. And the person praying within that time. So what's concerned the salat that is expected from the Muslim. And as we discussed, you have other salat, the ulama, you have a khilaf between ulama regarding is it wajib or not. For example, Salatul Eid. So the general thing regarding a Salatul Maktuba, the ulama discuss regarding concerning that and the salah regarding when it was made compulsory. At what time was salat made compulsory? That was made compulsory regarding concerning that in Mecca. Regarding right after Isra wal Mi'raj. So after Isra wal Mi'raj that occurred in Mecca, then salat also from then started to be was made compulsory. But then went to a different stage regarding the final stage that we have today. It is mentioned regards to the next matter regarding salat, ukum tarikus salah. Ukum tarikus salah. What's the rule regarding the person who leaves salat? And you have a discussion between the ulama regarding the person leaving off those four things. Any of these four, outside of Shahada. Outside of the Shahada, the person who does not carry out these four other pillars. The salah, pay the zakah, siyam, and hajj. And they're able. What's the rule regarding? So as for the first regarding salah, that I mentioned that it is mentioned regarding that the ulama, there's an ijma between the ulama. Man taraka salat juhudan or inkaran, the person who does not pray and rejects salat and denies salat is a part of Islam. Then I mentioned regarding concern that regarding concern the person kharaja min millat al-Islam, that a person have left the fold of Islam. So the person who openly denies salah and rejects salah, that salat is not a part of Islam. We are living in modern time, so based upon that, there's no salah, then that person is not upon the deen of Islam. So inkar wal juhud, the person have left the fold of Islam. Then I mentioned regarding concerning Ibn Abdul Barr, rahimahullah, of those who have mentioned this matter regarding ajmal muslimun, ala anna jahid fardu salat kafirun yuqtal fa in lam yatub min kufrihi. That Ibn Abdul Barr, rahimahullah, that mentioned that it is agreed upon between a Muslim that the one who denies salah, that salat is compulsory, then he's a kafir, he is to be killed if he did not repent from his kufr, from his disbelief. And also Ibn Qudam rahimahullah also mentioned the ijma regarding hukum tarikus salat, as I mentioned amdan or juhudan or inkaran. And also Ash-Shawkani, also of those who state that there is an ijma on this matter. So that's concerning a person who rejects salah. And the likes. They say amdan, intentionally rejects salah. As for the next matter regarding the ulama, regarding that a khilaf between the ulama regarding concerning that tariq salat ta'awunan, or the person does it out of laziness, kaslan. The person who leaves salat out of laziness. Is that person a Muslim or not? This is a khilaf between the ulama of old and of present. So a khilaf between the ulama of the past and present. So you have a lengthy discussion regarding concerning this matter, that you find that min as-sahaba. So you have aqwal of the ulama who mention concerning a man who leaves salat and out of neglectfulness. He believes salat is wajib but doesn't pray. Then of the ulama, the person is a kafir. So you find that they mention regarding concern that Abdul Hakim al-Ishbili rahimahullah, he mentioned في كتابه الصلاة, in the book of Salat, ذهب جملة من الصحابة, that is a group among the Sahaba, ومن بعدهم, and those after them, إلى تكفير تارك الصلاة عمدا لتركها حتى يخرج جميع وقتها. Then I mentioned a bunch of the ulama who mentioned regarding that matter. Then I mentioned that's concerning tariq salat. Then you have concern that of the ulama who all concerning that. They mentioned ذهب الحنابلة إلى أن تارك الصلاة تكاسلا يدعى إلى فعلها. The person should be called to pray salah. Hanabila, all the person who have left salat out of laziness, that he should be called by, for example, the judge. So those things now will be looked upon by the state for the qadi. That the qadi will bring the person وَلَقَالَهُ, and we said to him, in salayta وَإِلَّا قَتَلْنَاكَ. If you don't pray, then we're going to kill you. That's for the judge. So it's not for the father at home to kind of put this on his child. You can, but we're saying for the judge. Regarding those passing a hukum on the person. Then they mentioned that so the person, so that's the concern. That's concerned that the person is to be given time to see if he prays. They mentioned 3 days. And be told, if you don't pray, then know the consequence. If the person doesn't pray, then khalas, he is killed. And they mentioned that فَإِنْ صَلَّى وَإِلَّا قُتِلَ حَدًّا وَقِيلْ قُفْرًا. So yes, those mentioned that he's killed either haddan. So is he killed haddan or kufran? Of those we mentioned, kufran. So you find that most of the Hanabila, for example, contemporary times of our time, that they are more towards the view concerning that hukum taruku salat kaslan kafir. So it's a contemporary time concerning the Shaykh of example al-Mamlaka bin Baz and the likes, that they are of the view regarding that hukum taruku salat kaslan, then a person not a Muslim. We find that jumhur of the ulama that the person that taruku salat takasulan, that I mentioned that fasik lakin Muslim, that a person is said to be a wrongdoer, but he's still said to be a So Imam فذهب المالكي والشافعية إلى أن تارك الصلاة تهاونا وكسلا لا جهودا يقتل حدا. That I mentioned that is killed haddan. So that's concerning the Maliki and the Shafi'iyya. The Hanabila more a different, some of more inclined to the kafir. So if I know between the ulama, there's a khilaf. So that's concerning of those matters that there's a khilaf between ulama. Allahu a'lam, regarding concern that qawl, you have Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah and also Ibn Usaym rahimahullah more inclined towards the view that regarding the person who leaves salat totally. The person who does not pray totally. Not sometimes, but not at time. At all time. Doesn't pray at all. He's kafir. But the one who prays and sometimes may miss the salat, he's still a Muslim because he's still praying. So Ibn Usaymeen or Ibn Taymiyyah are more inclined like a middle point. If he still upholds salat to some degree, still praying, but at times will miss his salat, he's still a Muslim. But the person completely abandons salah, does not pray at all, laysa bi Muslim. Clear? Adil, Allahu a'lam, maybe the adil aqwal. But that's one of the views that are there. So you have those views that are there. Those who make the person that miss one salat, khalas. And the time of left, then he has left the full of Islam. So I said Allahu a'lam regarding what is mentioned by Ibn Usaymeen and Ibn Taymiyyah, that the person who still prays at times but may miss salah, then he's still a Muslim because he still upholds salat. And Allah Ta'ala a'lam regarding that particular topic. So go back to what we were discussing before. That of those things regarding that, it goes back to the person, hal, if the person takes his shahada but doesn't pray at all, and haven't prayed since he took his shahada, is that person Muslim? I would say that it become more those cases regarding that case concerned that those things have to be looked at or can be looked at if you know the hal of the person, you know the situation of the person, time of nikah and time of janazah. Because of the janazah concerning nikah, a kafir not allowed to marry a Muslim woman. So the person who doesn't pray at all cannot marry a woman who's a Muslimah. And also at death, that a Muslim, we should not pray over a non-Muslim. And he's not to be prayed in the maqbar of the Muslim. And not to be given the janazah and all the things that come with janazah. The packs that they come with concerning al-ghusl, wa-shard, the shrouding, and those things. And being prayed over. So all those things is a part of the janazah. So the person says, so the person did not pray, took his shahada 2 months ago and died. But since the time then, up until the time of his death, did not prayed. 2 years ago, he's going on 2 years, 3 years, him or her, and did not pray. Fast Ramadan? No. So don't you understand? So, what's that? That's not Muslim. That's not said that. Go back to what said Tarkus Salah. And that talaffuz bi Shahada, you understand? It didn't come, the person didn't go through with those things that come along with it, which is salat and the likes. Clear, Ikhwan? So Allahu Alam, I'm more inclined to say, so I said those are things that sometimes may occur. Now, so that inshallah ta'ala, that will end for today, and we'll continue the hadith tomorrow. And tomorrow will be the last regarding concerning that for the month of Ramadan, that we'll continue the series on weekends. And after Ramadan, we'll do it. We'll give maybe not immediately the week. Then we'll start next the next Saturday. It will be only on Saturday, not on Fridays. So we continue concerning discussing Al-Arba'in An-Nawawiyah, that we'll do it on Saturdays, starting from tomorrow. No more Fridays, only Saturday. وبالله تعالى توفيق وهذه السبيل. أي تفضل.
You said what you were.
Hey, it's okay. I'll repeat it.
They can hear it. Don't hear, yeah. Hold it. You can hear it directly.
So you what you more inclined to believe that the person is not a Muslim, right?
Okay. What's that?
I'm gonna ask.
Which case are you talking about?
No, you know when the person he's taking the Shahada, or he or she taking their Shahada, 1 month, 2 months, 5 months, 1 year passes, and there's no progress in there apart from the utterance.
Yeah, no, that person is not a Muslim.
Okay, supposing that person's at the time of death said their Shahada, even though they from the Shahada at the time they perceived became Muslim, no action, but at the time of death, yeah. So supposing that happens.
Okay, well, if I understand your question, the person say you have a case of the person took their Shahada, right? And months passed. That's what you understand. So months passed, and they didn't pray anything. Then that person, kafir. And you understand, nothing. They have a case of a person take a Shahada, and then few minutes, an hour after they die. Then it's a different case. That person Muslim. Clear? If I think I understand your question.
Yeah, that's it.
You understand? So if the person, like hours pass, you understand, a person in hospital bed, they give them the Shahada, and then hours after, later on they die, then that's a different sound. The person said the person had days and months, you understand, and they didn't take any action. Then that's a different scenario. Clear?
Yeah,
طيب, جزاك khair.
I've got a question here. Someone asked on YouTube, is there a technique to learn the 40 hadith in terms of memorization and understanding? And what hadith collection should we study after?
So the question is concerning that. What technique regarding memorizing and studying
And understanding, yeah.
and understanding Arba'in and Nawawi?
Yeah.
So as for concern that's not concerned, it's not that technique regarding memorizing. Remember, it says tikrar. The person want to memorize, then as I said, as for this, I will mention that An-Nawawi rahimahullah said that memorizing this collection of Arba'in, he said now every Muslim should try, or everyone who's able to memorize or to be very familiar with this Arba'in that is meant, or this hadith that I mentioned, this collection. I mentioned about in the introduction there, they cover an holistic aspect of Islam. And they give these hadith are like qawaid. They're like principles. So memorizing, yes, the person want to know how to memorize, it just tikrar, keep repeating the word over and over. But so it's important to memorize, the person is able or very familiar with these hadiths. Second, regarding studying, then the person to sit with someone who's explaining those hadiths, the person who's qualified to explain it. So either the person that begins said, you might have explanations that are there that are translated. If the person like a beginner, then they read those books. But also it is better, always better, that a person sit with someone, as books sometimes need things to be explained. Especially a person in the early stage of their learning of Islam. I'm not per se fond of a person just reading to other people something with his translation. Because you, the person, now have a responsibility to explain what you are reading to the people. But if you do it on your own, that's different. But anything which is confusing that you're reading, then you ask. If that needs clarity, then you ask those people who you know to be that has the ability to explain. Regarding concerning that is person reading on his own, that's for everyone. You understand? If the talib with him, if you read something which is unclear to him, so either you kind of somewhat you cross-reference with other sources to give more clarity, or you ask those who can give more clarity. But for the person generally concerned that's not of those explanations that are there, then if there's anything that is unclear, then ask someone who's able can give you an answer. And what else was there? And those for that answer.
The next books after this, what do you study?
It varies. Regarding concerning what is the general thing of the mutaakhirin, of the ulama of contemporary time, regarding concerning what a system of studying of concerning hadith that is mentioned today, that the popular system that is given out, and the system that is given out is mainly from people who are not specialists in hadith, regarding study of hadith. They said started with arba'in, then you go to, after then your person will go to Umdat Ahkam, al-Maqdisi, then they go to Bulugh al-Maram, and then they go to Al-Muntaqa lil-Majd ibn Taymiyyah. That's what they give as the system today of teaching, of studying hadith. That either system, you understand, that a system, the ulama mentioned, a system to memorize hadith. But as for studying hadith properly, then that's not the way of the ulama of awa'il, of studying hadith properly. But that's what's said commonly mentioned today. That's what is commonly mentioned today. But the ulama concern the books of Mustalah or Ilm al-Hadith, when they mention regarding the method to study hadith, they don't mention these books. But that's what's said because but the person give a lot of attention to Bukhari and Muslim. The person give a lot of attention to Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim per se. Aywa.
I want to ask you, in that situation, a scenario where you say the person might come accepted Islam, yeah, and leaves off the Salah for some time. Ramadan might come in and he starts fasting Ramadan. Would that person make tawbah, or they do the Shahada again? Or would it be...
It'll say that tawbah is in their Salah. The tawbah is in their Salah.
At the time when Ramadan kicks in, are they even... Like, it depends
then that's their tawbah.
Yeah.
Them starting to go back to Salah, then that's their tawbah. That's their tawbah.
Okay.
That's their tawbah, inshallah. Allahu alam.
And when it's not Ramadan, you sit down with a brother and you highlight to him, you highlight to him everything that's been said here. What does he do? Make tawbah, or then retake his shahada?
It is make tawbah. Let's make tawbah. If the person understands, then it says that say let's make tawbah and then start now to carry out these acts regarding salat and whatever else.
Okay.
So say that the thing concerns that so making tawbah and then start to fulfill the things that are required upon him to be fulfilled.
Okay.
طيب إن شاء الله تعالى.
عفوا شيخ, just one question.
يعني الله يبارك كلمة الشيخ. Just make sure it is recorded there. No, and Allah يبارك كلمات الشيخ.
عفوا. For the one who accepts Islam and they're senior in age, their mobility is limited, and maybe they can indicate when praying, but they don't. What's the hukum on
that scenario, that case?
Yeah.
The person is that a person have the ability to, they cannot per se do the motion of salat or carry the act of salat normally, but they can do concerning that indicating. Then that's what's upon them. So the person pray according to their ability. But the person not doing what is within their ability, then they are not praying again. Then they have abandoned salah. Because what is in their ability, then they should use what is within their ability based upon their circumstance. But if they are not doing that, then they are not praying. They are not establishing the salah. نعم أيوة طيب بالله توفيق وهذا السبيل. So inshallah we'll announce when we restart, maybe not exactly Saturday coming, next Saturday, but the Saturday after, so about the next second Saturday. From now we'll continue inshallah regarding al-arba'in wa billahi ta'ala tawfiq. Assalamu alaikum.